Welcome guys to Remote Closing Academy. I want to congratulate you on your decision, and I think as you dive into this, what you're going to realize is not only is there's a tremendous amount of value in this ecosystem, right? Not just the course, but also your coaches, the groups, the community, the Facebook group. But at the same time, as you start to apply this, you are going to just see so many changes in your life. Even outside of sales. It's so funny, like I think when people just really draw the line in the sand, make a commitment and dive into this for the first time, they start to see all of these different things in their life just really kind of aligning themselves so they can hit their goals, whether that's health, fitness, relationships, and their family, and obviously most importantly, your income, your wealth building, and all of that stuff. So I'm super excited. I mean, this is really essentially, guys, like my life's work. You know, in a lot of ways, this is like my art. So I'm sharing this with you in terms of everything I've learned and distilling down my 10,000 hours of experience of becoming a closer and everything I know about the industry into this training. And I am really excited to share with you, and I think you're gonna find it tremendously valuable and life-changing. So with that being said, let's dive in. What we're gonna cover is what you have access to, how to get help and support, overview of the curriculum, the path, right? Like the implementation path, some important things to remember, how to fail. So, you know, essentially Charlie Munger talks about when he wants to find out what to do, he first inverts the thinking and finds out what not to do, right? So if he wants to know how to succeed at X, Y, and Z, he thinks about how to fail at X, Y, and Z, and then he can invert that to really find the right answers. Two things that matter, so the only two things you need to focus on to get results in this program, how to celebrate when you have wins, and we're gonna talk about the next steps. So really quickly, this is kind of the boring stuff we got to do first, just so it's like orientation and onboarding and such. But really quickly, what you have access to, the content. Obviously, you found that because you're here. So I'm going to give you a tour through the content later. But for now, you know, you have the content. You also have the Facebook book community. If you don't know where to find the Facebook book community, it's right here. So you see this first page. You know, when you get to this, you know, welcome back RCA, it's right here. Okay. So then you have the Facebook group rules, okay? So like pretty standard stuff, guys. Like this is something that's like one of those things I gotta say. I don't really think anybody's gonna have an issue with this, but like no promotions, no negativity, no victim type stuff, no complaining. It's okay to ask questions and need help, but like no like outright negativity. You're just gonna get deleted, okay? Look to add value. So if you've had results or you have some insight and you think you can help somebody, help us out and answer questions in the group. Right? Because when there's more people receiving value from the group, it generates more reciprocity and it starts to become this flywheel where the group becomes more and more and more and more and more valuable. If you break the rules, you're going to be removed immediately without warning. Okay? Immediately without warning. So just want to be clear, if you're promoting stuff, if you're super negative and victim-y, like outrageously, which if you have issues, guys, like, you know, I'm going to give you tons of avenues to where you can get support, and privately, you know, sure, be negative. But if you're negative publicly, that's not good. Okay, if you're putting down others, that's also not good. So we're very, very protective of this community because we want it to be super valuable for you. So please don't break the rules so we could just leave you in. Group coaching. The dates and times are also here. So as you can see, tons of dates and times. Really, really awesome stuff in terms of the coaching. There's different links. So what I would recommend is just finding someone's, you know, 2 to 3 a week when you get started. Then you can go down to less after that. I would attend ones with your coach and ones with some other coaches that you find are really, really helpful or that you resonate with. And I would do 2 to 3 a week. I would mark them onto your calendar, like Google Calendar. So you have them on your calendar, you have the link there, that way you don't forget, right? So just make a commitment to come to 2 to 3 a week and just make sure those are in your calendar. In terms of one-on-one coaching, you have a one-on-one coach. You will know who that is probably by the time you watch this video. If you don't, make sure you email rcasupport@closersandleaders.com to figure out who your coach is. But really, you should pretty much have that. They're always in the Facebook group chat when you enroll. So that's who your coach is. You're going to have some onboarding calls and some one-on-one calls throughout the client journey thereafter. And then you're also going to have support via Facebook Messenger. So you're going to have interaction and support in between via Facebook Messenger with your coach to where you can get you can get your questions answered privately anytime you want, and also publicly through the Facebook group anytime you want. And you're gonna have one-on-one calls and you're gonna have group calls. So as you can see, this is not something where we're just like throwing you in a course or, you know, one group call a week that has 200 people on it and it's like, good luck, buddy. This is something where essentially you have so many different avenues of support and also varying levels of intimacy of support, right? One-on-one to group coaching to the Facebook group. It's just all these different things. Now, one thing is when I buy and invest in something, so like I've probably invested over $1 million in coaching for myself this year. And, when I invest in coaches, I do not like sit on the sidelines and it's kind of like, okay, well, like, what can you do for me? What I do is not only do I provide value to the actual coach itself, but at the same time, I make it a challenge and a personal challenge to myself to extract as much value out of the situation as possible. So I was mentored one time by Jay Abraham. A lot of people know who Jay Abraham is. And when I went into this 4-hour session of Jay Abraham, I made it a game to myself to see how much value I could extract out of that 4 hours. And when I say extracting value, I don't mean like we're sucking value out and like, we're sucking somebody dry or something like that, right? What I mean is like, I want to gamify like how much insight and value I can get out of this situation. And a lot of times actually, if you ask any coach, their favorite students are the people who really do take the responsibility on themselves to extract the value. And so one of my mentors told me that it's the client's responsibility to extract value. So be proactive with your account manager, be proactive with your progress, be proactive where you're at, reach out, just give updates, give where you're at, ask for help, ask questions. We want a tight communication and feedback loop with you. We'll be there along with you right the way, but that's your part and that's one thing you could really do to help. So a few important things to remember, guys. This is not get rich quick, this is not a magic pill. So what this is about is not you buy this and therefore you make this amount of money. It's not like, hey, just by, there's a guarantee that you're gonna make X. As you guys know, like I don't think I have to tell you, there's no guarantees in life of anything. There's no guarantees that we're even gonna wake up tomorrow. There's no guarantees that, that we're gonna live for the next 10 years. There's no guarantees that you're gonna make money next month, right? With whatever you're doing. You might have a job next month, right? There's no guarantees in life in anything. All we can focus on is what's within our control. And essentially what this is doing is this program is designed to focus on you building a high value skill and doing everything within your control to master that skill, because I will tell you, there's no other skill that has paid for as long as this skill has. Right? If you go down thousands of years ago, people were making money with this skill. It is probably the oldest profession in the world, right? So with that being said, know that if you master this and you focus on what's within your control, the money will follow, right? It would be illegal, not to mention unethical for me, to sit here and say, well, guys, like, you're gonna make this in this time frame, right? Like, I don't know what you're gonna do. We've had people come in and they're just like so committed. They wanna move so quickly. They're like, dude, they're telling their coaches, I wanna go as fast as I can go. And they get results and hit their income goals within 2 weeks. Right? We have other people who maybe they're going a little bit slower. They're not in a rush. It takes them a little bit longer. We've also had some people who don't do anything, right? Like they don't respond, they don't communicate, they ghost us. And obviously, as you can imagine, if you do that, you're probably not going to get results, right? So just keep in mind, guys, a lot of this is in your court. We are there to partner with you and help you every step of the way. And by all means, if you feel like you're not getting the support from us that you feel like you deserve, reach out to RCA support at closersandleaders.com and detail your experience with your coach, and we will get you a new coach. Like I will do everything in my power to get the people who are truly committed to the result that they want, because this is so important to me, guys. So that being said, push yourself outside of your comfort zone. That's the only place that growth can happen is in your discomfort zone, right? Not in a place of comfort. Do the work. You can't just go through the videos, guys. You got to role play. You got to take action. You got to reach out to business owners, etc. Take full responsibility. Where you're at in your life right now is because of you, right? That doesn't mean we didn't all start from different places, okay? I will admit, I've been very lucky in my life to have a great upbringing, grow up in a great neighborhood, and have really supportive parents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you might not have that, and you might be in a place where your circumstances of where you're starting aren't as good. And does that make it harder for you? Absolutely. So while it's not your fault that you're starting where you're at right now, what it is it is 100% your responsibility, okay? So no matter where you're at in your life, you need to take extreme ownership. And if you're struggling with this, a good book to read is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And at the end of the day, there's, even if you're not in full control of your destiny, it serves you the most to have the belief that you are. So full responsibility where you're at right now. And I'll tell you this, like I put hundreds and hundreds here, but probably 5,000 closers at this point. And the ones that achieve the best results, they take responsibility. They don't play victim. They don't offload responsibility onto circumstances or things outside of themselves. And this is very key. I want you to listen to me. They make decisions based out of a place of vision, not based out of a place of current circumstance. Because here's the thing. When you make decisions based out of a place of your current circumstances, guess what you'll generate more of? Your current circumstances. But when you make a decision based out of a place of your vision, you open yourself up to new possibility, right? So when you guys made the decision and the commitment to invest into RCA, you probably did it based out of a place of vision, not current circumstances. Because I know for a lot of people, you weren't probably making the money you wanted to make, right? You weren't fulfilled in your work at the level you wanted to be fulfilled. You weren't providing for your family at the level you know you truly could be at that you should. So by the very nature of you investing in this and making this decision, it was out of vision and not out of circumstance. But you need to continue to do that. Because once you stop is when you stall. Okay? So lean into the resistance. It's going to come up. But when you feel this resistance and this like, I don't know if this is the right thing and I'm really uncomfortable and all these things, that is a leading indicator of growth. And nothing is failure and only feedback. So again, when you're going to fail. Okay? Some people, there might be some people who come in, don't fail one time, they go right to the top. But I will tell you this, expect to have some setbacks. That doesn't mean it's going to take you years and years for this to work. But what it is going to mean is like, hey, you might not be as good at this in the beginning as you thought you were going to be. You might find a little bit of the training overwhelming. You might get some hard critical coach from your feedback from your coach, which means you need to get better. You may get your first gig and then lose it because of something happens, right? Whatever happens, take it as feedback, and if you continue to iterate and get better, you're going to be tremendously better. I will tell you this, guys, like when I started, I was like really, really bad at sales. I might seem like this charismatic guy who's good at talking now, and it's like, oh, he's, obviously he's good at it. Well, I don't know, man. My first sales gig, my first sales contract with high ticket, I went, this was when I was selling marketing software for realtors. So I guess it was before I got into high ticket, but still, I went 0 for 30 on my first 30 calls. 0 for 30, right? I don't even know why they let me on a team. So you probably won't get much worse than that. That's the good news. I mean, I bet you probably won't do as that bad. So the difference with me is I was just so committed and I just wanted to get better, So how to fail. So again, we talked about the chart, one of the best ways to solve a problem is to invert what you don't want and get insight from it. So let's talk about how to fail. Letting the initial nerves and overwhelm get the best of you. So like the truth is, guys, you're really excited when you come into this. You're like, man, I enrolled, I'm excited, I have this big vision, and then you start going through the training and there's some stuff in there that maybe is a little bit more complicated than you thought. Maybe not, but maybe it's a little bit more complicated than you thought it was going to be. Maybe there's a few things that are overwhelming. Maybe you're like, and you start to get overwhelmed and you're bumping up against the resistance, right? A very, very common thing is that like in the first 7 days, if you're like, this is not for me, right? This is too much work, right? And it's just, you're bumping up that glass wall of resistance and that glass wall of fear. And instead of pulling deep down and breaking through that glass wall to the other side, instead of doing that, you're essentially going back to average, right? You're reconciling back to safety, right? Back to comfort. And the real thing is that nobody who did anything ever great in this world, and that could be a business they started, the money they made, the wealth they built, it could be, them investing in themselves to become a good dad or a good mom or whatever it is. Nobody who became great at anything did it without leaving their comfort zone and did it without breaking through and pushing through a massive amount of resistance. Right? So because I'm just going to tell you this right now, there's going to be a time where you bump up against that glass wall. And the real decision is not going to be about RCA or if this is right, if this is not right. The real decision is going to be, do you have what it takes to break through to the other side? Because I will tell you this, the reason why most people in the world will never make more than 200 grand a year is not because they're not capable of it, right? It's because 99% of people bump up against this glass wall and then retract, And the few people who do have the things that you want, maybe they're making $200,000-$300,000 a year, maybe they're making $1 million a year, $10 million a year, whatever it is. When they bump against this glass wall, they make a decision based out of faith and not fear. Right? They feel the fear and they do it anyway. They're not immune to it. They feel it and do it anyway. So I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a time where you bump up against that glass wall, and it's going to be your decision to make. And I want to encourage you to not only make the right decision, but even if it's really hard, book a call with your coach. Talk to your coach about it. Tell him you're scared. Hit him up on Facebook Messenger. We are here for a reason. And I'm not shaming you if you have any limiting beliefs or fears or whatever. I'm inviting you to come work with those with us so we can help you get to the next level. So, another big thing here is ego. So like a lot of you guys might come in and have experience in solar or door-to-door or insurance or car sales, and that's great. That's going to give you a big head start, okay? We've had people, though, come in this with no experience at all and absolutely be some of our best students ever. And we've also had people who were really good at, let's say, car sales come in and totally fail because they had an ego and they didn't realize that there's nuances of sales of these different industries. So here's the deal. Even if you're very, very confident in your sales abilities, you should have, as Jeff Bezos says, a day one mentality. You should really look at this as a beginner's mindset and just be a sponge. Absorb from people who you don't think are as good as you. Absorb from your coaches. Absorb from my training. Because what I can guarantee is if you are in this, you probably haven't made the money that I've made in sales. Right? So by the very nature of me being in this industry, number one, and knowing all the nuances, and also, I've helped consult sales teams for some of the biggest names out there. And by the very nature of the results I've generated in this industry, and as a salesperson, there's probably some things, even if it's just one or two things you can learn. So really go through the training, really take notes, take it seriously, and just drop any and all ego, even if you've been in sales for 20 years. Okay? A few other things. We can go through some of this stuff. Don't play victim. Don't identify with failure. So again, when a lot of people bump up against that glass wall of fear, a lot of folks will rationalize it with, well, they'll use their identity. So it's like, sales just isn't for me, right? But it's kind of funny because a couple of weeks ago it was. So here's the deal, guys, is like your brain is trying to protect you, and at the same time, your brain is going to rationalize any other decision that you make. You probably know from being in sales that we buy emotionally, we justify logically. Well, we actually do everything emotionally for the most part and justify logically. So if you make the decision to not do this, or you make the decision to quit, or you make the decision to bump up against that glass wall and retract back into your comfort zone, your brain's going to give you all of these good reasons and persuasive reasons why it was the right decision, right? At the end of the day, though, you have to realize your brain's just helping you justify staying in your comfort zone because it wants you to be safe, right? Our brains evolved to help us be safe, to avoid danger. But the problem is, well, that worked 2 million years ago on the savannas. We're not on the savannas anymore. And a lot of the times, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you really put yourself outside of your comfort zone and push yourself to the next level, right? And and not be afraid for failure, or you fail a few times, you're not going to die. So I think, just watch out for the identification or the reasoning and justifying of staying in your comfort zone. Also, just be patient. So the thing is, guys, like I will tell you right now, the reason that I really got into sales, if you watch the video that got you into this, is essentially I realized through reading a few books that I had to pursue something that had unlimited income potential. And sales and business were the only two things. And business, you need about probably 11 core skills to really excel at business at a level that's actually going to really like build you wealth and not just be a glorified job. With sales, you need one skill. And with business, probably the most important skill is sales. So I looked at sales as sort of this bridge between me having no experience, literally having no experience at all and being poor, to essentially having the first and most important skill that I'll need for a lifetime to start my business. And I think if you look at this as you're building skills and the game is to acquire as many skills as possible, what you're going to find is it's going to give you a much, much longer term time frame on this stuff. And at the end of the day, the more skills that you have, the more money you're going to make. And the reason for that is because business is about solving problems. Okay? When you solve a problem, you create value, and people exchange money for value. Okay? So how you make money is that, right? You solve problem, create value, people exchange money for the value. Now the question becomes then, how do we solve problems? We do it through specialized knowledge, which is a fancy way of saying we do it through specialized skills. So a lot of times when you go for a goal, you might have heard that you need to go for the goal indirectly. Okay? You need to go for the goal, not right at the goal. You need to go for the thing that by the very nature of achieving the thing, the goal becomes inevitable. Building the skill of sales is that indirect thing. And the more we focus on just how good we can get with this, eventually, no matter what, the money is going to follow. Right? But again, if you're not patient or you get frustrated that, oh my God, this doesn't happen in 2 weeks, you're not setting yourself up to win in this. But you, as you guys know, anything in life. Right? I'm not saying it's going to take years and years, but people who are patient and persistent and focused over a long time, those are the people who win. You probably heard the story, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, they both said that the number one key of their success was one word. It was focus. And I would add to that, it's the focus on one thing over a long, long amount of time. The great thing with this is you don't need to be doing it for 30 years to be good at it. You can do it in a very, very short time frame, but just have some patience. Okay? Let's move on to the 2 things that matter. So essentially in this program, there's only 2 things that matter that are going to get you results, which is amazing, right? Like I said in business, there's 11 different things that matter. You know, with sales, there's 2. Okay? The first one is sharpening your skill set, aka just getting good. Okay? So going through our process and getting certified is going to be the number one thing that's going to make a difference in your success or failure in this thing. Okay? So that's going to be going through the content, drilling, role playing, reviewing calls, etc. The second thing is generating and doing interviews. Okay? So generating conversation with business owners and having the conversations and landing contracts. If you do those 2 things, you will succeed. And the beauty about this, opposed to starting businesses or, you know, like let's say doing an Amazon FBA or drop shipping or, you know, these other opportunities that you can make money with, is with those you have to build a myriad of different skill sets. With this, you just have to build one skill set and then focus on getting in an opportunity that allows you to exercise the skill sets that you built. So let's talk about the overview of the program here. So as we can see, here's our dashboard. Dashboard here will bring you to home. So there we go. And then I'm just going to kind of roll through this really quickly. We'll, you know, a lot of this stuff we'll get into later. But right now we're at the intro and onboarding week. I'm actually in the process of releasing the second version of this. So a lot of these trainings will be updated. So there's no reason for me to go through each of these individual ones because a lot of them are going to be updated there. Then we have the Sales 101 crash course. Okay, so essentially, there's a lot I can teach you. You know, if I'm going to download 10,000 hours of experience into you in terms of sales, that is not going to be in 2 hours. So I have a tremendous amount of training that you're going to see in a second. But what I wanted to do is try to find a way where I could essentially give you the 80-20 as fast as possible. So this crash course teaches you the bare knuckle essentials of what you need to know so you can go through this probably in a day or maybe 2 days, and from that have everything you need to start taking action. I thought that was really cool. So this crash course is awesome. Then we go into landing a setter and closer contract. Okay, so landing a setter and closer contract is basically, we're going to talk about the businesses you should be going after, how to go after them, how to identify them, how to have the conversations with them, and essentially setting yourself up to win. The great thing is, once you get certified through the crash course, all the heavy lifting is done up front, because once you have our stamp of approval, people want people from this program and trained by us, period. Okay, so landing a setter closer contract is going to teach you how to go out there and actually get the gig and make sure you're in the right gig. Make sure you're not in one that's going to overpromise and underdeliver. Then we go into the 7-Figure Selling Academy. So essentially, the 7-Figure Selling Academy is my advanced training. Okay, I don't want to say it's optional, because it's really not optional, but you could just go through these first couple of weeks here and get results, right? 100%. But if you really want to take it to the next level, going through all of this different stuff down here is going to help you tremendously. So in this introduction, I kind of give overview of what all these trainings are. The ramp up helps you understand what your first 30 days is like as a closer or a setter, and what you should be focusing on and what you not should be focusing on. Okay. Sales philosophy and inner game is really exactly that. It's like the mindset, the inner game, just how to think about selling, and how to think not about selling, just selling, but also the profession of selling, like, and how to think about it like a professional sport, and how to structure your day and all these different things. The setter training is for setters, right? So, you may end up being a setter, you may end up being a closer. We're going to talk about what that is later, but obviously the setter training goes over all the stuff about how to be setters. The closer training is broken up into two parts: the intro and discovery, and the pitching and the closing. So that is basically the overview of the entire sales process in massive detail. Again, we do go over that in the crash course, but I have it a little bit here too. Then we go into objections, follow-up and pipeline, asking school questions advanced, and some bonus stuff. So now, in terms of your implementation path, this is the most important part of the video, so listen to me, okay? Here's the deal. We break down the implementation path into 4 phases. So the first phase is where you're at right now: orientation and onboarding, okay? This is like, we're just getting oriented with everything that's going on, what we have access to, our communication cadence with our coach, when we're gonna meet, how we're gonna meet, how often we're gonna meet, all of these different types of things, okay? So here, all you wanna do is go through this first week of training, okay? Now you can go through, you could skip to all these other phases if you want, just kind of not rush through, but like bolt through this thing if you really wanna be committed. But at least in phase 1, in the very, very first week, go through the first week of training. Okay. We also want to get oriented with all the resources that we have, and we want to make sure we have our one-on-one onboarding call done. Okay. And make sure you leave that with a full sense of clarity on your next steps. If you don't, hit up your coach and say, hey, I really appreciate the call. I don't really know what my next steps are. Would you be able to help me out and give me a further sense of clarity? They're there to help you. And if they're not, and you don't feel this person's being helpful, email rca support@closersandleaders.com and let us know. We'll get you a new coach. Phase 2 is certification. So this was going to start your second week, or sooner if you want. But this is essentially where you're going to go through a specific set of training to get certified. Okay? This will consist of going through a certain set of training videos, attending a certain set of group coaching calls, attending your one-on-ones with your CSM, pairing up in a 4-person pod that your CSM is going to assign you to, and then role playing with those guys and doing a certain amount of role plays. You're going to bring your call recordings of those role plays to the group calls and to your one-on-ones, and your CSM is going to give you feedback and then eventually give you the stamp of approval. Okay? Now, I know that was a lot there. We have an entirely separate video on this later in this first week of training, so don't sweat it. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, exactly what the training is to go through, exactly the actions you should take, how many role play. It's paint by the numbers. Okay? So I just want to pre-frame you that that's phase 2. Okay, we'll go in. There's a whole video on phase 2 later. Phase 3 is sourcing. So after you've gotten the certification, we're going to teach you how to go out there and easily source a position. There will be also a separate training about just sourcing and like everything about phase 3. And then also that landing and setter closer contract week, that is all about sourcing. Okay, so that'll help you with that. We're going to show you everything you need to do. You're just going to have to take a recommended volume of activity. Okay, so like anything, if you want to find, I'm just going to use a wild example, but if you want to find the person you're going to marry for the rest of your life, do you go on 1 date or should you go on 100 dates, right? You should go on 100 dates. If you want to, land a client and you have a business, do you talk to 1 prospect or should you talk to 10 prospects? Well, it's the same thing with here. You need to be talking to a lot of business owners and have a lot of options and make a decision based on a place of being empowered. I want you to, you to come to the coaching call and say, hey, Brian, Brian's one of our coaches, but Brian, I've actually gotten offers from this company, this company, this company, this company. Which one do you think I should take, right? We're going to make sure that you're in a place of empowerment and you're in a better place in terms of how you can make a decision and in a place of abundance. That's where we want you to be, right? Not like, oh my God, I got one. Okay, so you got to take a volume of activity to get there. And I will say this, if you ever had a business or if you had to self-prospect, you've had to go out there and get clients, this is going to be tremendously easier than that because number 1, it's such a high-end demand skill. Number 2 is you have our stamp of approval and that does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Okay, phase 4 is ramping. So once you land the contract, we're going to put you through the advanced section of 7FSA, right, which we talked about earlier, and also continue working with your coach so you can succeed as a setter or a closer depending on when you start. So last thing in this video, celebrations, okay? Very, 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 very important. Celebrate any and all wins you have in the group. Not only is this important to acknowledge your own progress, but at the same time, it uplifts everybody in the group. Two types of win you need to celebrate, okay? You need to celebrate, number one, when you land your first gig. And the way to do that is make a post. Hey, I landed my first gig. Then you want to say, here's what the gig is. Here's why it makes me excited. And here's the on-track earning potential, okay? Then when you make your first sale of your first gig, also say, hey, made my first sale and my first gig. Really, really excited. Was this deal value? Was this commission? And then after that, make sure you say how the call went. Like, you know, a lot of times that first sale, you're a little bit nervous. You know, you had to handle some objections. So that's really, really cool. And you can see I put the format here for you guys too. So really, really good stuff, guys. Again, like I'm super excited for you guys. If I would have had this program when I was starting, my God, it would have helped me so much. Like I can't even explain. And one of the things that I'm really excited about with this program is I made the thing that truly I felt like when I was in your guys' shoes, I would have wanted, and everything I wish I would have had. And, you know, this thing is near and dear to my heart. I've really put my all into this. And like I told you earlier, this is truly like my art and my passion. So there would be nothing more flattering for me if you go through this and you implement it and you get results. Like at the end of the day, I don't want just like, oh, the training was great. I want, dude, like I did what you said and, you know, it changed my life and I got results. So thank you guys. Again, thank you for trusting us. And we are here to serve you and get you to the next level. And we'll see you in the next video.